let's get back into this, okay? All right, verse 2. At that time, the Lord said unto Joshua, make these sharp knives and circumcise again the children of Israel the second time. And Joshua made him sharp knives and circumcised the children of Israel at the hill of the foreskins. Remember, we covered this. Excuse me. And this is the cause why Joshua did circumcise all the people that came out of Egypt that were males, even all the men who died in the wilderness by the way after they came out of Egypt. And then it goes, let's skip on here. So basically, all these people that came out of Egypt, there's a whole generation that had not gotten, who were not circumcised. That's what they're saying. So the Most High, according to this passage, saying, hey, listen, before you cross cross this Jordan and take possession of the land, you're going to have to make sure that all these men are circumcised. Same thing they were doing in Egypt. Again, going back to that. So we got to continue the practices of Egypt. But okay. So let's go. All right, let me see. Then can you pass? Okay, so you got one. Okay, so let me start at 7 here. And the children whom he raised up in their stead, them Joshua circumcised, for they were uncircumcised because they had not circumcised them by the way. And it came to pass when they had done circumcise all the people that they abode in their places in the camp till they were whole. All right, so there you go. So the circumcision, massive circumcision took place. All right, now let's jump to Joshua chapter 7. All right, and it says, and Joshua sent men from Jericho to Ai, which is besides Bethaven, on the east of Bethel, and spake unto them, saying, go up and view the country. And the men went up and viewed Ai. And he returned to Joshua and said unto him, let not all the people go up, but let about 2,000 or 3,000 men go up and smite Ai. All right, so he said, don't let all the people go, meaning don't let all these men go. Just get about 2,000 or 3,000 of them. Okay, we're going somewhere with this. All right, and then verse 4, it talks about there was 3,000 men that went and did exactly just that. All right, so let's go, and we're going to jump further down. Let me just make sure I'm not missing anything in this chapter. Okay, so now let's go to chapter 8, Joshua chapter 8, because it wasn't just 3,000 men that were there. All right, and let me see. Okay, here we go. I'll just start at verse 2. And thou shalt do to Ai and her kings as thou didst unto Jericho and her king. Only the spoil thereof and the cattle thereof shall you take for a prey unto yourselves. Okay, skip that. Verse 3. So Joshua arose and all the people of war to go against Ai. And Joshua chose out 30,000 mighty men of valor. 30,000 men. Okay. So we're talking about in total, the amount of men that were circumcised was at least 30,000 men. At least that. That's a lot of men, ain't it? Now, we have to start looking at this. Let's look at this even further. But this time now we're going to fast forward big time all the way to an article that was written August on the 25th, 2014. This was in the Guardian. Because we're going to look at these numbers here, okay? We're going to look at the number. We're going to keep those numbers in mind. You're talking about 30,000 men. All right, so here we go. It says the death and deformity caused by male circumcision in Africa can't be ignored. We touched on this on another broadcast, and we talked about the high rate of deformity of male genitalia in South Africa, specifically in South Africa. Now, South Africa you had Bill Gates some years back and all these other globalists. They said, hey, listen, AIDS is rampant, particularly in South Africa. So what we're going to do is we're going to start really pushing circumcision, because circumcision can lower AIDS. And that's a big lie because it's not true at all. And if you watch that, one of the videos that we did, I think it was the first one, that was the actual study. We actually looked at the study. It was a huge overestimation of making that claim. Huge. It has nothing to do with that. Circumcision has nothing to do with stopping AIDS. Not at all. But that's just an excuse that they use to damage these people. All right, so let's get into this article here a little bit. This week, 200,000 festival goers. Oh, before I go here, I had someone reach out to me on or left a comment on YouTube, and they were saying that, hey brother, I could tell they were from Africa, basically saying, they were just saying that, circumcision has been a part of our culture for thousands of years. You need to stop reading those white man books or something like that. I'm serious. That's what he says. But with the irony of what this person said is that if that's the case, if circumcision, which I don't doubt, it's interesting that Bill Gates had to come along and to encourage more and more people to do it. If on one hand, you're saying that it's part of your culture and it's been part of your culture for thousands of years. But on the other hand, there's a huge swath of time when y'all most of y'all weren't doing it at all until white man Bill Gates come in. All of a sudden now it's a thing now, so there's a reason why I'm saying it, but let's get into this. This week, 200,000 festival goers are gathering in Tutu, Uganda, where they will enjoy the music, dancing atmosphere, traditional ritual circumcision without anesthesia. You know what I'm talking about. Okay, it's long day. Anesthesia, I think that's what I'd say. Anyway, of at least 1,000 teenage boys. Males from participating tribes are told that if they do not volunteer, that they will be captured and circumcised by force. Wow, that sounds, like a wonderful time there. One MP said the chilling words, if you know any, Mugisu, who is dodging the circumcision, show him to us and you will get 500,000, whatever their rand, I think it is down there, as a reward. The Ugandan Tourist Board is marketing this as a major tourist attraction with the blessing of the president. This comes just 2 weeks after a mob in neighboring Kenya reportedly abducted at least 12 men from different tribes and forcibly circumcised them in the streets. Dozens more were said to be camping outside the police station for protection. No one has been yet arrested for these assaults. Now, let's stop there for a second. Does this sound, just reading this, people, you got men that are in fear that they're going to be circumcised. These men are going by their natural instinct and saying, wait a minute now, I don't want to do this. There's something about this that's not right. I don't want to have nothing to do with this. And so these people in their feet, and they're like, we got to get up out of here. This don't sound, hey, that's our tradition or whatever. There's a lot of things that's traditional, but that doesn't make it right. We got some folks that are like, hey, brother, hey, listen, we got to get back to, what our people were doing. Some of the things our people were doing were horrible. Just because it's African, it doesn't make it right. And if something, again, it's your natural instinct. If your natural instinct is, wait a minute, these folks are going to try to get me to go under the knife with no medicine to dull the pain. Oh, there's something about any natural person is going to be hightailing it up out of there. You understand what I'm saying? So there you go. Let's continue with the article here now. We're not going to leave our place with the scriptures here. Every year across sub-Saharan Africa, hundreds of thousands of boys and young men submit to initiation ceremonies. The specifics vary, but typically youths will spend weeks living near naked in temporary shelters with minimal sleep, food, and water. After the operation, the penis is bound tightly with sizzle leaves. The human devastation left in the wake of these traditions is horrifying. A recent report by South Africa's Commission for the Promotion and Protection of the Rights of Cultural, Religious, and Linguistic Communities calculated that in Eastern Cape and Limpopo province alone, at least 419 boys have died since 2008. Now, this article was done when? Okay, 2014. So you're talking under 10 years, about 400 and some odd people died since 2008. And more than 400, I want you to listen to this number here, 456,000 initiates have been hospitalized with complications. 456,000. All right, let's continue to read this. Deaths commonly occur through dehydration, blood loss, shock-induced heart failure, or septicemia, and there are estimated to be 2 total penile amputations for every death. Okay, in case you didn't understand that, they just completely slice it off because it just got jacked up. Countless numbers of participants are left with permanent scarring or deformity. Urologists describe seeing patients whose penises have become so infected and gangrenous that they literally drop off. They just fall off. Most ceremonies are normally voluntary, but it is questionable how easy it would be to resist the cultural pressure to take part. One young South African who spoke after his penis was amputated following a botched circumcision was severely beaten as a punishment for shaming the ceremony. When women elders condemn what is happening to their sons, they are vilified by tribal leaders. Authorities acknowledge the scale of the problem. The Western Cape Cultural Affairs executive member, Dr. and then they give his name, Dr. Mbombo, was said that the deaths across South Africa should be seen as nothing less than a national crisis. The South African Human Rights Commission calls it an endemic carnage. Various laws have been passed or proposed, and some money has been found to support medical circumcision as an alternative, but still boys die by the dozen. And they say perhaps most shockingly of all, we have no idea of the true scale of the problem. So those numbers that they quoted there, it's more than like they said more than, so it's higher than that. South Africa has relatively well-developed governance and public health systems, but many initiation schools are unlicensed and illegal, so the full toll of death and injury may be hidden. In other countries, tragedies simply go uncounted. All right, let me see what they got here. Just continue to read here. Okay, let me skip down. It may well be that continent-wide circumcision campaign to prevent AIDS is a principal cause of the institutional silence on the issue. It seems likely that the World Health Organization, UNAIDS, and similar bodies are reluctant to say or do anything that might undermine the drive. Leaving aside the ongoing epidemiological debate about the effectiveness of the strategy, it is self-evident that non-clinical circumcision can be actively harmful, leaving bleeding wounds or incomplete removal of the foreskin, which can increase risk. Okay, and then it goes on. Okay, yeah, that's it. Now, the reason why I wanted to read that to you is because when we go back into that scripture that we were reading, they said it says 30,000 men. It says 30,000 men, at least what we know, because it doesn't tell us the total, but what we know is at least 30,000 men were circumcised. That's a lot of brothers. Okay, now given the fact that you're dealing with long time ago, And so basically the instruments they had were sharpened rocks, or, I'm sure they had sharpened metal, and they had the knives and stuff like that. But, so they're dealing with very ancient technology, if you will. Now you cross that with what we have today. I mean, we got the latest, we're supposedly more advanced. So we got all the latest and greatest and all the technologies, right? Right now. So, but still the way they do male circumcision is still very antiquated, I think. I mean, if you ask me. But for the most part, there are things in place, if you will, more things in place to quickly resolve issues if they go south. But nonetheless, like we said in the last, I think one of the videos that we did in this series, there's still a very high rate of male of where it goes really bad for a lot of men in this country, where the doctor basically screws it up, and now they're just not just mutilated, but very, very mutilated. There's a lot of men that have been impacted by this. You will never hear them talk about it because it's, that's a very embarrassing and is a very personal thing, but it's a very big thing, particularly here in the United States. And we talked about that. We also talked about how I believe the CDC don't even track it. That gives you an idea. Okay. They don't even bother tracking that. But here you have 30,000 men, that we know of, at least that's mentioned in scripture, dealing with this very basic of cutting instruments. I'm reading in the scripture and I don't know if maybe some of y'all have a Bible there that has this information, because I don't think I'm able to find it. But you don't see not one instance, no case mentioned of any of them where there was severe damage. You don't mention it. You don't hear any instance where some individuals died. Now, again, you're dealing with ancient technology, very basic technology. Back then you had a knife and you had, rocks or whatever they use and sharpen it up. That's really all they had. Today, we got all kinds of technology and all that. So what we're to believe is that when we read the scriptures and they said at least 30,000 men were circumcised, it was perfect. It was just a perfect cut all the way through. But here today, in today's time, the ratio is extremely high. So either these people in Africa are so antiquated in technology and in medical understanding and knowledge, or this is something, or someone's lying, basically. Because I'm reading this thing, and it's very hard to believe that you can do 30,000 circumcisions and it's all clean cut, all, pun intended, all the way through. And there's no mention of, some died, there was some mutilation. If you're doing that many surgical procedures, 30,000 surgical procedures. Do you know how much that is? That's a lot of people. I don't think you fully understand that. In one day, the probability of 30,000 surgical procedures being done in one day. And then they all got and there's nothing at all. Everybody was fine. Everything was good. Now, these are grown men. I mean, it wasn't the babies. I mean, I'm sure they maybe had some babies in there, but these were grown men because these were fighting men that they used to go against AI and some of these, and then the Canaanites and all that. But these are grown men. And there's no mention at all that anybody got damaged. There's no mention of severe mutilation. There's no mention of that. Now, see, your church mind will tell you, well, brother, hey, listen. See, when you walk in with God, see, everything will be done perfect. So it could be that the Most High just guided all their hands in such a way where there was everything was done perfectly and all that. But, That's a lot of inferring. You're putting a lot into that. You're putting a whole lot into that. I'm just looking at just basic, like, okay, you're going to do 30,000 surgeries in this short period of time, and then there's no mention of that. But we look at South Africa, and in just a few years, they're racking up 400 and some odd thousand people that had to go to the hospital because of the way they were, because of the procedure itself. Luvini, I see what you're saying. Talking about 30,000 survived. Exactly. Not only survived, but they were ready to fight. They were ready. Automatically, you jump. Okay, we good. We're going to go to war. You get cut. You're a grown person. You getting cut down there. You ain't trying to do nothing. So that's really the thing I wanted to point out. That's why I call this something ain't adding up. It's not adding up when you look at this in a very practical way. When you start looking at this very practically, it doesn't add up, because now we have a real life example that we can point to, and that's right there in South Africa. And but like I said, we can look over South Africa. At least there's an article. That's the only reason why I looked at South Africa, because here in the United States, like I told you again, CDC ain't even tracking it, but at least they're doing something over there. And they're able to tell you, wait a minute, you got all of these people here, all these brothers that are walking around here that are mutilated. I mean, just extremely mutilated, where it's just damn. And then you got this high percentage of boys or men that have died as a result of the procedure. Now, in the article, they try to make like, well, it's some of these tribes, they're working with very antiquated stuff. I mean, it ain't really that hard. I'm just trying to tell. I mean, it's not hard in the sense of what needs to be done. But my point is that this is something that you're going to, I mean, not everybody's perfect. Not everybody's born do you understand how much practice you have to go through to learn how to do a procedure, something like that? You ain't just born learning how to circumcise. You just got this inward thing. Okay, I know how to lop off the top part of a penis. You don't just know that. There's some real skill that got to go into that. I mean, if you're going to do it right. And then when you look at these rabbis or whatever, they sick and nasty and disgusting. We already talked about that. I'm talking about today, and the rabbis today. And what they do, in some cases, and we showed that, some cases they use they have a sharpened nail, like fingernail, that they use to cut off the skin of a baby, off the penis of a baby. You imagine a fingernail using that. And then after that, then they suck it or whatever. It's disgusting, disgusting, disgusting. That is, and I'll just preview, that's what, why Judaism is a phallic cult. It's a phallic cult because right from the beginning, they're already performing a sexual act. And that's what it is. But yeah, I just wanted to point that out to you. That's that passage where you're talking is thousands and thousands and thousands of men who were circumcised. We're to believe that all these men were circumcised. There's no mention at all in scripture of anybody not, it not working out, mutilations, people dying. There's no mention of that. It was all just a clean cut, pun intended. But here we can look at a much smaller amount of people who were being circumcised in our case study for this evening in South Africa. And there's a very high rate of extreme mutilations and deaths. So something ain't adding up here. It's not when it comes to mutilation. I mean, that's what it is. And, so yeah, that's really the main point that we wanted to bring out for this evening when it comes to this. And then, what was the other thing I wanted to mention in regards to that? So yeah, so don't look at circumcision as a mark of the covenant, because it's a thing when people say, well, brother, because I know I had some people out there saying, you teaching against what it says, because our elders, in scripture, they all did it. It was a mark of the covenant. Well, let me ask you something. So the men that are, so the little babies that are circumcised here in America, remember now, you saying that America is Babylon. So if Babylon is encouraging circumcision, that means that what you're saying is they are also doing it because of the covenant. Because according to how you were taught and trained and what's in that Bible, only Israel was the ones that was involved in circumcision. Only Israel. When you read the Bible, that's what it tells you. That this is a sign that basically is going to mark you as one that is made a covenant, that you are in agreement with the covenant, and that you're set apart, that basically you're going to have to circumcise, get circumcised. So it's postured as if it's only Israel that was engaged in it. All you got to do is look at the rest of history beyond the 66 books. And as I said earlier, you had the most wicked of all nations, Babylon, that was doing this thousands of years before that. Then Egypt and Greece and Rome, they were all engaged in this. Not only were they engaged in circumcision, I showed you, they even have drawings showing you a circumcised penis. And they'll take it the next step further. Not only they show you a circumcised penis, but they also have statues of a circumcised penis that they worship. But yet we're to believe that the Most High has instructed us to do that, to show that we're separated from them when they've already been doing it. That don't make any sense now, does it? So, yeah, so that's really so like I said again, this is something that, it's going to take time. For some folks, it's going to take some time for it to really sink in. And for this, because there's some things that have to be, we gotta separate ourselves. We gotta take this stuff out. It's wrong, it's evil, it's wicked. For brothers like me and others who've already been circumcised. I mean, it's done. We can't go back. Now, there's some medical procedures. They said, you can get something sewed back on there or whatever. But guess what they use? They use like parts of aborted fetuses, I think, like that. I'm not babies. I'm not doing what I'm going to go from one to the other. I'm not doing that. You understand what I'm saying? So this is really something, isn't it? It's really something to as we're learning this stuff. And like I said, as a man, especially, it really cuts home, pun intended, and it cuts very deep, because all this time we've been programmed to think that, oh, that's just natural. No, that's a mutilation. I want you to understand that. You've been mutilated. Yes. This system has always taught us that, female mutilation, genital mutilation. They're trying to circumcise, where they're trying to make, basically the vagina, the hole smaller and all that stuff. That's mutilation. But you notice for the brothers, they don't ever say that. It's not mutilation. Oh, it's just circumcision. That's all it is. Oh, it's for religious purposes. And I tried to look up the numbers for Israel, and they're very tight-lipped about that. I'm going to have to really do some digging to see if I can find out, because their numbers are really high. Who, what's his name? Harvey Weinstein. Harvey Weinstein, from what I understand, in the court case, it came out, he was severely mutilated, severely. And the women that came forward and said that, that they were sexually harassed by him, they was like, basically they say, okay, you lying. They say, okay, all right, describe to us what his stuff looked like. And they drew a picture, and all of them, and basically they got it right. And they were like, oh, snap. Okay, because you definitely would have to see this to believe. I'm not trying to be funny, but I'm just saying, so anyway, that's it, family. I don't want to prolong this, but that's all I want to share on this, just so that we can get even more perspective on this and just how demonic and evil and wicked these people are. This is something that I'm just sitting here right now, and I'm just like, wow. Like I was talking to my wife today, and it just kind of like, it just dropped on me. I was like, man, I've been mutilated. Man, it really dawned on me, just the how evil he is. But I don't stay there, and you don't stay there, because the Most High, you're not any less than a man because of that. Not at all. You're not any less of a man because of that at all, because the Most High can still use you. And in many cases, he's using many of you out there right now, so don't ever, yes. In one hand, I want you to understand that part, man, that's a mutilation. When you look down there, that's what that is. That cut that you didn't ask for, the line that's there, that was determined by a doctor. That wasn't the Most High doing that. That's not the handiwork of the Most High. That's the work of a doctor. They did that. And for some of you, the nerve damage is so bad, your thing may have a lean to it a little bit. That's because on that side, there's been damage. Does that sound like, oh, this is just a sign of the covenant of the no, it doesn't. That means they done some damage to you. And if you were born in today's world and you was able to point that out, man, you can probably get a small bag on that. I'm just saying that. Look, let me think about that. But anyway, no, it's too late. But I want you to understand that yes, that's mutilation. But I also want you to know that you're not any less of a man of the Most High, because of it. Because again, that is something that happened to you. You had no control over. You had no control over that. But now with this knowledge and understanding that we're getting right now, we're starting to understand these things. Now we can say, you know what, let's draw the line right now. And even the sisters out as well. Some of our sisters out here, maybe you're expecting, or some of our grandparents that are out here, you can at least let your children know, hey, listen, hey, check this out. You may not want to do that. Then, so you at least can now draw the line in your families and say, no, we're not doing this anymore. Don't buy into the lies of the enemy, where the enemy is trying to tell you, because out there they'll tell you, well, circumcision is good because it keeps you clean and it reduces disease. They done studies on that. There's no truth to that. There's no truth to that at all. None at all. No truth to that at all. So, all right, y'all, I'm not going to keep you. That's all we have. I'm going to get this video up as well. And I got the audio. We're going to do the same thing as well. But I hope you got something out of this. And you guys definitely take care this evening. Get yourself some sleep. And we're going to be, by his grace and mercy, we'll be back here on Samba Saturday. And we're going to take this conversation in another direction. But we're still going to be under this umbrella of of circumcision. But it's going to be in another section, if you will. So, okay. So family, listen, you guys take care. Enjoy the rest of your evening. And like I said, I'll make this available as soon as I can get it up. Okay. All right. Love you guys. Take care.